cup at a time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. We are here on Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right, it's morning time. Today is Thursday, so be ready. We have 3 shows this afternoon and this evening as well. But this morning we have an incredible guest here all the way from the United States. That's right. This morning we're going into United States. This afternoon, the UK, and then back into the United States tonight. That's right, we're popping around, we're traveling. So grab your seatbelts, buckle up, we're going on a trip, and we're having a tea adventure. So before we get started, we're going to do all the good stuff. We're going to do the disclaimer. We're going to do a little intro of the incredible guest who's sitting in the back studio. And we're going to just have a good old fun playtime this morning. So make sure to grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab the beverage of your choice. You don't need to drink tea to have tea time with Miss Liz. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz is Tea Time Live Show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any tea time hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forward dialogue and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All tea time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussion for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that this show is not made for you at this time, I respect that and I will see you at a later show at a later time. So now we have the disclaimer out of the way. Let's get a little bit of who we have sitting in the back. So we have a filmmaker, we have an educator, we have a lady who really is making a difference with stop motion films. So I want to know a little bit more about it. I've found a lot of information on it, so I'm going to really enjoy this morning's tea with Laura. So Laura talks about the wisdom of fairy tales and storytelling. Laura focuses on animating fairy tales and mystic stories that explore personal and collective transformations. She is inspired by the work of Joseph Campbell, Jung, and Michael Meade. Laura's films are made in her basement in Chicago. That's right, in the basement. See, dreams are everywhere. Her screening events are filled with heart and question for the soul. So I'm going to bring in Laura Lewis Barr. That's right, award-winning stop motion filmmaker and educator. And I'm going to get her to spill some tea with you this morning.
Good morning.
So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. So great to be with you.
It is an honor to have you. I am so so excited for this morning because I really want to know so much about filmmaking and all the different ways of filmmaking because I've never heard of stop motion films. So could you tell the audience a little bit about what that is?
Sure. Stop motion, in the old days, if you ever saw a show called Gumby and Pokey, that was stop motion. And stop motion is when you take a photo and another photo and another photo and you put them together to make motion. So you're making motions out of just simple images. And so you can animate objects, and I animate dolls.
So what got you into the fairy tales, Laura?
Yeah, so I have been studying fairy tales for a long time, and part of that is because I love the work of Carl Jung and people who are associated with his work. And those people, the Jungian scholars and therapists, they recognize that these old tales have a lot of wisdom in them, and they're sort of like dreams because a lot of times these fairy tales are so kind of crazy, but just like our dreams, they bring forward this wisdom that's really deep.
Well, and we need dreams. We need wisdom, right?
Oh,
Because
yes.
we forget to play. As adults, I love watching fairy tales. I love watching, you know, animated movies. I watched Fern Gully the other night and Land of the Lost. Like that's just who I am. I love watching all of those fairy tales and the good storyline. But I noticed with your work, Laura, you do a lot with Barbies.
Uh-huh.
So is there something special about the Barbie for you?
No, I think for me, I'm just not that kind of artist to make my own figures. And I found that these 11-inch dolls, there's a zillion of them out there. Some of them are Barbies or other. I use GI Joes. I use any 11-inch doll. And there's also an unlimited supply of accessories and there's cars, there's bathtubs, there's everything I need. I can get it used. So I don't have to build all of that.
So for the viewers that are watching, the Barbie doll is also used in your films as inspiration as well to educate through your stories, correct?
Well, my stories I see, I'm hoping that on one level, they're just fun. They just bring laughter to the world and play. And on the other hand, if you were to sit with them, like the dream you wake up with in the morning, like that kind of dream, if you were to sit with them, you might discover, oh, this might symbolize this, and it means a wisdom for my life.
I like that. And I like the word wisdom. I think this morning we're really going to do some wisdom talking. We're going to open up the minds of the viewers and listeners out there. And for anyone who's catching a replay, please push hashtag replay. Let Miss Liz know where you're tuning in from because I always like to hear that. Laura, I want to get into I've been doing a lot of homework on you. So, what got you into filmmaking?
I've always been involved in the theater. And even as a child, I was doing plays. That was always my deal. And I was lucky enough a while ago, I think it was 2010, one of my play scripts was picked up for an indie movie. And once that happened, I was hooked on filmmaking. Filmmaking is lasts forever and a play ends at closing night. And when the pandemic hit, I was already had started, but when the pandemic hit, I had my studio in my basement. I could just work every day during shutdown. And that's when things really accelerated for me. I had been doing it a year or two before, but and my day job kind of ended, so I had all this time. So yeah, that was the trajectory for me.
Well, and you mentioned the basement. So, I'm big on opening the minds of the viewers and listeners out there. What got you inspired to use your basement as a studio?
Well, My husband built me a metal stage, which takes up a pretty good chunk of space. So, just on a practical level, we needed a place to just leave it up. And it's very kind of trippy to go down the stairs to do my laundry. And there are these dolls in position, ready for the next set of shooting. It's pretty wild. So yeah, it was more of just a practical matter to put all that stuff and have that space that's set aside for this craft.
So, for the viewers out there, we have some questions that are coming in from Twitter. If you guys would like your name to be seen on the live stream, please give StreamYard the permission so that I can put your posts up and your questions up. Without that permission, I cannot share your name due to guidelines. So please, if you'd like to have your name seen, please give StreamYard the permission to see you. But we have a question here from somebody on Twitter. It just says Twitter user. They want to know Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung, and Michael Meade. Who are those three people to you?
Fantastic. So Joseph Campbell was somebody who wrote about mythology and how all the myths are telling one beautiful story, the hero's journey, and how we're all living that journey every day. We're all living a hero's journey. And he was inspired by the psychologist Carl Jung, who, oh my gosh, Jung did so much deep work around understanding that we can evolve into a sort of our best selves by recognizing the unconscious and archetypes. And Michael Meade is a storyteller that uses old stories and old myths to look at today, the world today, and understand what's happening. So they're all interested in the mythic story, the fairy tale story that stands for a lot of inner wisdom. I am using that word a lot.
But there's a reason for it because I believe that we use words repeatedly and repetition in order to get the message across
Yeah.
and what's really truly within ourselves. So I feel like this is a good time to ask you, what is your tea this morning, Laura? And what are you
Oh,
serving to the world?
um, well, what came to my mind is trust emotions always. And in my day job, I was teaching, and I still sometimes teach emotional intelligence, and it does dovetail with storytelling. But yeah, trust emotions always.
And I feel that that's a strong tea. And see, like I told you, don't overthink it, and you got it. Like, and this is what we have to start serving ourselves. We have to start being proud of who we are and feeling within, and that wisdom of knowing that we are different, and it's okay to be different because
Mhm.
you're so different. You do so much different work. So I also found some awards that you received. Could you mention a couple of awards that you have gotten for some of your films?
It's wonderful in the world right now because there are all these film festivals that focus on short films. All over the world, people gather to watch independent short films that are truly unique. And I have been fortunate to get into a lot of these festivals for my work, and so I get a laurel, an official selection when I'm chosen. It's pretty competitive, so anytime I get a win, I'm super excited. And then sometimes I get something beyond that, but just getting invited to these festivals. So I'm invited to a festival in April in North Carolina coming up for one of my short films, and I hope to travel to there, but one way or another, my film will be screened.
Oh, well, that's awesome. And congratulations on that. Like,
Thank you.
so could you tell us a little bit about the film festivals? How does that work? Are each individual film festival a little different? Is there different guidelines? For anybody who would like to get, if they're doing any work into the film festival, how do they go about that?
Well, there's an organization or a website called Film Freeway, and they'll hook you up with, you know, thousands and thousands of festivals depending on what location you're focused on. Festivals can be focused on comedy or horror or I don't know, drama. Some are really focused on short films, and that's pretty common now. So, and if you're just not making films but want to watch films, just keep an eye out, because I think every town, almost every mid-sized town, has a festival these days.
Well, I found a couple of the film awards that you have received, and I'm just going to share them a little bit with the viewers and listeners out there. I'm just blown away because I have pages and pages of awards that you have received. And as you've seen on the video that I shared about Laura, you can see all the different awards that she has received. So, Laura, amazing work. Keep up the good work, because
Thank you.
this is what we need. We need different. We need uniqueness. We need we need really need to open the doors and the minds. And films, short films, I find are easy to listen to and watch because they're so short, right? They're not this long, 1 hour. It's like podcasts. Miss Liz's podcast is 1 hour, but sometimes we just need that 5 minutes or that 10 minute to get the message across. So I just want to share a little bit of the film festival awards that I found online for you. Inspired Theater and Film Award winners, finalists, and official selection. uh, Revelation Film Festival Reflections. Emerging Artist FF Phone Gal. Meduse Film Festival Phone Gal. So I'm guessing these are the names of your films, correct?
Yes.
The Phone Gal. Cosworth International Film Festival. So are these like located in different parts of the world as well,
Right. I
Laura?
think Coswald is the UK. Yeah, they're all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to get connected with you after the show so I can find out where exactly these film festivals are, because I always love getting more information, and I can update the viewers and that through updates through Laura as well, so you can check out all these incredible things. But just a couple more. We have Twin Falls Sandwiches Festival, The Gardener, Roy and WD Hot Films in the Making, Stockbroker and the Goddess, Eugene International Film Festival, Colosso Honey. Am I saying that right?
Cloistered honey.
Coister. Well, that's a cute word in the morning, isn't it? You get your coister bun. So, if you want to share a little bit about a couple of these films that I've mentioned to the viewers and listeners out there.
Cloistered Honey was my very, very, very first film a long time ago. It was a feature film, a live action film. That was the film that started the journey. And a lot of the other films that you read are these newer stop motion, The Stockbroker and the Goddess, The Gardener. Those are early films of mine. And yeah, if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see my early films are there's a naive quality that I enjoy, but it also sort of illustrates my learning curve because I'm teaching myself stop motion. I went to school, I went to graduate school for theater. I'm a writer director, but in terms of making stop motion, I'm teaching myself. So so people will see mistakes in the films, and hopefully I think they're getting longer and more sophisticated as I go.
So, how
But
do you
longer
feel?
is sorry, longer is 60 minutes, just to clarify.
And Laura, how do you feel about mistakes and edits d- as an individual?
Oh, it's such a good question. It's an ongoing spiritual practice to embrace my imperfections. I care so much about these works of art that there's a part of me that wants them to be perfect. But I think imperfection for me is kind of baked in because I'm doing these myself on really a zero budget. So, there's a really wonderful, and that's again when you look back at these early films that were made, even in the 30s, where people were first starting out with film and didn't have a lot of resources. There is a wonderful quality when we start with very little and do what we can with it. And so I love that quality, but it means if you go out and see the film Pinocchio, which is made for millions and millions and millions with a staff of hundreds. And you see my film, which was made for $5 and it's me. There's I it's not, mine isn't slick. Mine, you can see the seams. But I do think there's a place for homemade in our world, that we need to have that place, and that, um, yeah, I'm fighting to keep that alive.
And you mentioned something really important, and like big, like Pinocchio has all of this teammates and directors and producers, and here you are in the basement on a low budget. And I'm big on showing the world that you can do incredible things with no money, with low to next to no budget, when you really truly believe in yourself. And you have proven, like, you have pages and pages of awards here that you have received on a low budget. And we really need to start teaching our children that we don't need to have a big account to have dreams. So I really want to thank you for sharing that this morning, Laura, because we really need to get that message across. We need to stop feeding our children that they can only be big dreamers if they have a seven-figure bank account. You might have a one-figure bank account. You might have $1. That $1 might turn into $1 million, but you have to have that $1 to begin with, and that one belief in yourself, right? So and that's what I really got from checking you out and doing the research on you, Laura, is that you really just did what you felt would make a difference. And you like to see the seams and the streams, because I think we need to show the imperfection. We have to show the world that failure and trying is deeply important. So I really want to thank you for that. And bacon, like, I think Barbie, yeah, Barbie did a bacon with Ken. Like, there was a film out there. I'm not sure if it was one of yours, but they did do like a talk show and a cooking show and all that. And when you play with Barbies, right, you have your bacon oven and you get in there and you know. So for the children that are watching and that will watch the replay with their families tonight and later on tea time, what message do you have for the kids?
Yeah, I think there's magic in your imagination and in your play, and that we love it and need it in the world, and keep playing and imagining and building the world that you want to build.
And I think that's deeply important. And you're really giving some strong wisdom this morning. Your $5 budget, but look at all of the accomplishments that you've made with that $5. But it's the time and effort that you put into it
Mm,
and the belief in within yourself.
mm.
So the one word that you gave me when I asked you what word describes you as an individual, you gave me the word passionate. So why did you give me that word, Laura?
Yeah, I do feel a lot of joy, and I think I kind of, that is who I am, and so joy and passion, this desire to serve, this desire to contribute, and my way of contributing is through story. And I think it's taken me a long time to not get too distracted by a zillion other ways to serve, that this is my way to serve, and focus on, I think stop motion is kind of a wonderful vehicle for me, because it does take a lot of time, it does take a lot of focus, and I have a lot of energy that needs a focus. There is a kid in me that kind of drives me. So this is a wonderful channel for all that passionate energy, all that excited energy that somehow I have.
Well, and I love that you said desire to serve, because that's what you did this morning and you are doing this morning, is you're serving and you're spilling a good strong tea of trust emotion always. Like, you have to trust yourself, right? You
Mm,
have to have the emotions within you
mm.
to always show up. So how long does it actually take you to make one film?
No. So my films range between, they might be 3 minutes, generally at the lowest end, and I'm finishing one that's 16 minutes. So I'd say generally a really short film might be a month. and the longer films might take 4 months, 5 months, depending on what else is happening in my life. And that's kind of rapid actually for stop motion, but it is partly because my style is kind of scrappy and yeah.
So we have another question coming in here, and they're asking a little bit about visiting Valerie. I'm guessing that's one of your films. So I guess they're checking your website out. So they want
Yay.
to know a little bit about visiting Valerie.
Visiting Valerie is one of the films. So if you go to my website, you'll see some of them are labeled fairy tales and some of them are labeled characters and culture. They're not specifically fairy tales, um, but Visiting Valerie is a slightly longer film. It's 13, 14 minutes. I can't remember. And it's a very offbeat story about some people that have a strange encounter during a lunch. Then they go to the zoo, and it's offbeat and quirky, and it came from a real event in my life that I dramatized or made. Yeah, it's not drama; it's comedy, but yeah, it's quirky. It's quirky.
Well, and I like Corky because Corky is unique. It's different. And I love doing different. And I love hearing different because we really need to put that different out there in the world. You know, if we were all the same, the world would be a really bland cup of tea. It would be really stale, you know. So we all have to serve a different flavor and blend sometimes. So we also have another question here that's asking about the clown. I'm guessing, again, this is one of your films, correct?
Right. The Clown is a film. Almost all of my films I've written the script for, but The Clown was the first time I directed and produced something written by another person. And to me, it's very it's brief. It's briefer. Can't remember 10 minutes, let's say. Um, and it's sort of like a Christmas Carol, but with a clown.
Oh, well, that is
I-
different. Well, let's get a little bit into this clown. And I've had clown on tea time, so let's get some clown out there.
you want me to tell you more?
Yeah, I do. I want
Yeah,
to dig into
yeah.
this clown.
So the clown, well, we start out with the film with this high-powered executive who's kind of tough on her team, and she is running this office really hard, and she leaves the office and runs into a clown in the park. And she's pretty tough on the clown too, and the clown puts a spell on her, and then she becomes a clown and she can only talk kind of clown gibberish and she learns so like I say it's like the Christmas Carol, spoiler alert, she learns kind of to be more human by being forced to be the clown. And I also think the story for me is about the fear that I have, and I know maybe others have it, of appearing to be a clown. Like, oh, I want to look so smart all the time. I want to be slick or, cool. And that fear of being the clown. So there are different levels to what the story's about, but she learns her lesson.
So, for you, what does a clown mean to you, Laura?
What does the film mean to me or
An actual clown. Like, what is a
oh,
clown to you?
oh yeah. Yeah, I think there's a sacredness to messing with everyday reality. So, I don't circus clowns, I don't really want to think about. I'm not a big circus person, but I think clowns in general are disruptors, they're tricksters, and I think there's a real need for tricksters and disruptors to kind of mess with everyday reality that we get so hooked into how things, and you're always saying this, Miss Liz, how things have to be a certain way.
Yep.
um, I think clowns traditionally, and And all cultures seem to have a trickster character, and myths and fairy tales are filled with them because we need them to poke a hole in that puffed up ego that we can sometimes have. They poke that balloon.
Well, and I always feel that there's a misconception on clowns because when I had Eddie Smith on, he's a clown. He's been a clown in a hospital for over
Oh,
25 years. And he said that a clown is more of a leader because it's the faults and imperfections. That's something that you mentioned earlier, that we assume a clown is being a jokester, but they're actually showing us and making people laugh by falling and getting back up again. They're actually teaching us that it's okay to fail. It's
yes.
okay to be imperfect. They have these different looks in that, and I feel that a lot of information is always being miscommunicated or misunderstood because it's not properly given, or people are not doing the proper research. And this is why I have guests like you on, Laura, is because I want people to know that being different and trying things and, not having that budget sometimes to make that big dream happen, that we can make a difference, you know, and we can get the right information out there and we really can educate people. So I want to get into a little bit, a couple more of your films here. You also have, I see, would you rather a cautionary or I die, I
So
believe.
there's two films I think you're seeing there. One is called The Gardener, a cautionary comedy, and another one was called Would You Rather I Was Dead?
Yes, that's it. I can't even read my own writing this morning. I need more tea.
Would you rather I was dead? That's another from the character and culture pile. And it's just a slice of life moment with two guys and a kind of a comic misunderstanding. It's a really short film. And yeah, it's done pretty well out there. It's an older film of mine. Yeah.
So go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I was just going to say I love comedy. And I think one way to do comedy is to look at these tiny moments of our lives and really look for, our misunderstandings can be tragic, but they can also be comic. If we can laugh at how we misunderstand each other and we get so upset, and that's what happens in this piece. And I love that. I love the comic outlook. I personally need it so much.
Have you ever been in a situation, Laura, where you're so frustrated and so angry that you're just like, I'm just gonna laugh this out? It's just too much of a stress for me. I'm just gonna start laughing.
Wow. I don't know that I've ever just turned on the laughter. I think, but I might try to look for what's funny. But do you just start physically laughing?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm just so blown away why there's so much frustration and why there's so much anger that I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to be a hyena here and I'm just going to laugh it off
Wow.
and see if that actually changes the situation or find a solution. Because sometimes when we get so angry, we lose it, right? And
Right.
then we have regret or we have things that happen and we're just like, whoa, where did this come from? How did we get here? So let's just laugh about it, let's just laugh it off and start fresh.
Yeah, so true.
And I think we need more laughter. And I love the wisdom that you're giving this morning. The little key points and the little tips and tools. They're like little cookies that go with your tea. So I for the viewers and listeners out there, I really thank you for all your questions and that. Um, I really appreciate people tuning in and sharing and supporting Tea Time because without you, we don't make a difference. We all have to do this together. We serve tea together. I don't serve it alone. We serve it with everyone. So again, thank you for everyone who's sharing this morning's Tea Time. I appreciate that. So Laura, I want to get into some of the press releases and podcasts and stuff that you've been on. Could you share a few of that with us this morning?
Well, it does feel amazing. It's sort of like film festivals. there's all these podcasts around like yours that welcome people like me. And it's been delightful to try to share this vision because I am alone in my basement working. I am alone. And so to get out and get online and talk with people and share my enthusiasm has been a super, super joy. And so that is part of my work right now is to try to share um, and remind people about the things you're reminding people about play, the power of fairy tales, the power of um, creating and not getting caught up in big budgets.
Right. Because
Yeah.
I think sometimes we don't live our dreams and our goals because we're like, oh well, we don't have that fun. We can't travel there. Well, I've traveled over 42 countries right from this rocking chair. So you can
Yes.
do it too. You
That's
can
right.
travel. Use your imagination. Like this morning I'm in the United States. This afternoon I'll be in the UK. And just kind of open that mind and be different and show people different and be okay with being you. So you do have a backstage blog. So what is that about, Laura?
Right. So I have a blog that's connected to my website, and I just try via the blog, via Facebook, Twitter, all the social media to put when I win an official selection or an award, if I do a podcast, or even just giving backstage photos of what I'm working on, just to document. And it's really fun because I can look back at that blog or my social media and really see and remember. I think I'm on my 16th or maybe 17th film now. So that's a lot of memories that the blog kind of documents. I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Well, we have a comment here. I believe it's a comment, not a question. Thank you for, first off, they're saying, thank you, Laura, for sharing that you're not alone and that you do matter and that you are an everyday person as well. So
Mm.
thank you for sharing that. Now, their comment is, how do you feel about social media and interaction?
Oh, wonderful question. I'm not great at social media. I've never been great at promoting myself. Twitter is where I've been most active. Just somehow tweeting has fit me. And one thing I love about Twitter is that they have these like Fairy Tale Tuesday, and people will just post on fairy tales through that hashtag all day on Tuesday. And so over the years, I've learned a lot about fairy tales. It's been a little graduate school, and it's Mythology Monday and Folklore Sunday. So yeah, I use Twitter in a way where I'm learning, but I'm grateful for social media because it is the way to connect. And so I'm not great at it, but I appreciate it.
Well, and I just learned something new about Fairy Tale Tuesday on Twitter. I did not know about that, so I'm going to be checking out Tuesdays. So, is there like a group for that, or is it just all day Twitter? Like,
Yeah,
this is the first I'm hearing.
if you type in Fairy Tale Tuesday, you will get to the person that runs it. And every
Yeah.
week they give you the theme. And that's the other thing that's amazing about it is that, let's see, well, because of Valentine's Day, the theme was love and lovers. And your feed will be filled with tweets about that, about fairy tale lovers all day long. It's really fun. And they have all sorts of different themes. Uh, yeah. And you just check on the theme and then you tweet on it.
Oh, well, I just learned something new. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to check that
Yeah.
out on Tuesdays because
Yeah.
I'm not doing tea times on Tuesdays unless it's a rescheduled tea time. So, thank you for that. Like, I love learning from my guests. Like, I love learning new things because if we knew everything, where would we be, right? So,
Right. It'd be boring.
Right? It would be like, oh my goodness, like that's just like a really old tea that just sat for a really long time. So we don't want to sit on tea. We want to sit on tea, but we don't want to sit in it. Um, so I want to get a little bit into the name because you have psych cinema. So how did you come up with that name?
Psyche's Cinema is is named kind of in honor of the inspiration I get from Carl Jung and the psychology people, because Psyche's a character in an old myth, but Psyche also means soul, and it's so my filmmaking is meant for the soul, and it's meant for sometimes it's meant for those who kind of study the symbols that are in the soul, because some of my films are well, the old fairy tales were filled with symbols, and so my films are filled with symbols that you can decode for the soul. That's where the name comes from.
Oh, I really like that. Like I didn't realize that. I'm gonna have to check out some of your little short films. So like is there coding like in the film itself?
So let me give you an example of a film. There's a film called The Linguist, which is based on an old Grimm tale, the Brothers Grimm. It's based on the old Grimm tale called The Three Languages. And in this fairy tale, the hero learns the language of the birds, the language of the dogs, and the language of the frogs.
Oh,
And as the hero learns these languages, they become useful in I often make my heroes women. Traditionally they were usually men, but in my version, she her knowledge of these languages helps her in many ways throughout the fairy tale. And so we might ask ourselves, what does that symbolize to learn the language of these animals? I think there is symbolism there about getting in touch with our instincts, for one. So, getting in touch with what moves us from inside that isn't intellectual. That's one way to read the symbol. So my films, you don't have to look for it. You can just enjoy the film, I'm hoping. But there are people that like tarot cards, or they like they like poetry, or they like that, kind of to look for symbols and metaphors. My films hopefully have those hidden in them. At least that's what I try to do. So in a newer film, I have a film called Percy Grows Up, and it's about Percival and the Holy Grail.
oh,
And there's a moment in the beginning of the film where Percy's with these other knights, and they come up in front of a TV station, and on the TV is a little picture of Joseph Campbell. Now, if you don't know Joseph Campbell, you wouldn't know that. But for those of us who love Joseph Campbell and his work, it's sort of just a little treat that I hide in the film that people might go, oh, look at Joseph Campbell's in the film. So there are levels, I hope, different levels people can appreciate.
so we have another question here for you, Laura. What equipment do you use to do the stop motion filmmaking?
Great, great, great question. You know, and I will just say before I answer that, that people are making amazing films with just their iPhones these days. And before that was happening, I bought myself a slightly used Canon, nice camera, a DCLR camera. So it's a really lovely camera, but it's complicated to use. But I can use it to take single shots, which is how I make the stop motion.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So I use this lovely Canon camera. I have just some lights in my home that I've put over the stage. I have a metal stage. I put metal magnets on the bottom of the feet of my dolls so that they can move along the metal stage without falling. Um, and that's really it. I use a editing program called Premiere Pro, and there's a lot of free stuff online in terms of sound effects. I purchase music to use in the films. But yeah, you don't need much. The biggest part of my expense is probably doll clothing.
The wardrobe, right?
Right, wardrobe. They have better
Well,
clothes than
it's
I
not.
have.
It's the clothes. The clothes is always the most expensive, right?
They have better clothes than I have, that's for sure.
So I want to get into a little bit more, Laura. I also found that you have a program, I believe, for the teachers. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I started making these, so my background is in education, and I taught theater, I taught public speaking at colleges for many years. I'm a teacher at heart. And so when I started making these films, I thought, wow, this would be so great for teachers. And I wrote some curriculum. And like one piece of the curriculum that excited me was, okay, we've got the original Grimm fairy tale of the three languages, and then we've got my film. So wouldn't a cool thing for, a seventh grader, an eighth grader would be to compare and contrast, the original to the new, and then to say to them, make your own now. And I came up with so much material, but and it's out there, and I would love teachers to use it. I think marketing curriculum is a whole other job that I just didn't have in me. I just didn't have it in me to do what you need to do to make curriculum fit all the standards. And, there's lots of standards now, but it's in my heart. And I, and I do have the heart of a teacher. So I did write that. I have a page on my website, and I think the films are free. They're available. People can use them. And because they're not perfect, I think they can inspire kids to make their own, and you can make your own with a camera, with a phone. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and how many kids have phones these days?
yeah,
So we could be really making some incredible films in that. We have all this technology in our hands. We need to start using it to make a difference. Instead of
mm,
wasting time, do
mm,
something very valuable. And you mentioned that the curriculums are hard to get into the education systems and to market. So, for anybody who's watching out there, if you're a teacher and you would like to have this in your classroom or you would like to try it, check out her website. Her website is lauralewisbarrfilms.com. And make sure to check out all the incredible work that Laura is doing, because Laura is doing incredible stuff. And I love that you say that this could be used to educate and to show that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay that it's not picture perfect, because that's where the editors come in, and that's where the editor people come in. There's a job for everybody out there. This is what I do. Now let's push it on to the next person and the next person. But also try and learn a little bit of these things as well, you know, and ask questions. And, do like what Miss Liz does. Just get the question out there and ask it. Um, you on the curriculum, you have like a creative response, so writing or filming my own version of the story. So is that like creating their own movie?
right. So there are different sections of the curriculum that I wrote, and that one section, how would you make the film? What music would you choose? What story might you tell? Uh, the different films sort of brought out different questions for me. In The Clown, I was asking questions about, well, what's the face? And this is from emotional intelligence stuff. What's the face that you show other people? What's the face that nobody sees, that is your face, but you don't show to anybody else? This idea of, sort of the mask we wear. So I think, yeah, there are fun explorations we can make based on these stories.
That is that's amazing. Some more wisdom and some more little cookies are just been given. I'm really really enjoying this conversation with you, Laura, this morning. um, we need those little tips, those little icing and sprinkles on the cookies, you know, and to be okay by being different. And I love that you put that mask, the example of the mask, because So many of us put this mask on and are scared to show our true selves to the
Mhm.
world
Mhm.
because of judgment, because of stigma, because of shame. And what I want to do with Tea Time and what I want to do with you this morning is I want to show people that we're just two real women here having a conversation and we're sharing and spilling tea. We're not sharing gossip, we're sharing education. We're teaching educational awareness through storytelling. And that's what we're doing this morning is we're telling a story. We're telling Laura's story. So for the viewers and listeners out there, if you'd like to know more about Laura, Laura, where can they find you?
I think my main website, my name, Laura Lewis Barr Films.com, is kind of the best way. And there are different pages, and there's the link to my YouTube page, and link to my blog, and link for the teachers. So yeah, that's a really good place.
Well, thank you so much. Now I want to get into I asked my guests all this, what their favorite color is. And you gave me the color green. Why the color green?
Green for me is life. And so, the whole thing about growing, the whole thing about things that grow. Yeah. And I am a gardener in my life, and then I did a film called The Gardener. Green, yeah, all reasons to choose green.
Well, we have to plant those seeds, right? If we don't
Y-
plant seeds, how do we grow? How do we change
Right,
anything, right?
right.
And this is how we get to know people is by just asking simple questions like, what's your favorite color? What's one word that describes you? And I get a lot of people that struggle with that question is one word to describe myself. And they're like,